guys out. Oh, I need this 200 acres done.
Please give me a heads up.
Just like we'll be done early. Yeah, then we kind of fix that, we gotta schedule them out. Works a lot better.
Nine o'clock, we call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anything to add to the agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Meeting minutes were sent out.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion on the minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The warrants are also sent out.
Question that was maybe highway related, but in Parsons Electric for highway lighting, 4,181.
For what, which one?
This Parsons Electric. Did we install some new highway lighting or repairs or?
If you look in there somewhere else, there's lighting that was hit by a plow. I'm betting it's part of that, but I don't.
Page 8. That should be down on County Road 54 and 25.
Cause there was, I think a bill for like $6,000 for a new pole, so I'm betting that's the wiring part of it.
Then the other one was with 211,000 some Tollmaster. Is that repairs or purchases or
That's a part for a plow truck.
parts?
It's a part, it's the Towmaster part of the trucks that we're buying. It's the box and that's what a
To
Towmaster.
build the plow,
That's,
the wing, so there's two, we bought two sets,
that I don't know.
it's the same amount twice, that
Okay,
kind of caught my.
they're for it's for the plow truck. I see it on the side of it, it says Towmaster.
Yeah.
There's also the repair for parts is identical and then 11,000 is identical, so it might be, I don't know.
Have to ask them when he comes in. I would say they probably, it's up for two different trucks.
There, I'll make the motion to pay the.
Okay, we have a motion. Get a second?
Second,
All in favor of paying the bills? Any more questions first? All in favor of paying the bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
can I ask Tina, what did you find out about Zoom last week?
Darren has not been able to get a hold of anybody at Zoom.
Okay,
So he's gonna continue to work on that, so some of the discussion was, to just cancel altogether and start a new account, but before we do that, he still wants to talk to somebody at Zoom to make sure that the emails that get put back in for the licenses still work.
well, so, I mean, we know Western Prairie went to Teams, and my question is, can we record, so we're standardizing across? Can we record this and do all the things with Teams? And should we just be going to that rather than having separate, cause eventually we're gonna wind up with that subscription for Microsoft for everybody anyway, right?
Teams can record.
Cause I mean so for Western Prairie, it kinda equals out the cost of the Microsoft package and what we were paying for Zoom.
Yes and no, it does, I mean, our current email server is a lot cheaper than going with $22 a month per user, we have about 65 users in Grant County. So when we look at that $22 a month times 12, it's a pretty big number versus our email servers, a big hit initially. But over the long, like after 5 or 6 years, we don't spend nearly as much on an email server as we would those $22 a month per server per.
Are we gonna be able to stay with the email we have? We don't have to upgrade. I don't wanna sign into a contract with Zoom and then 6 months down the road have to go to that Microsoft anyway, and now we're paying for both.
I think that's a bigger picture we need to have with Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect an answer today, but let's,
Yeah, we were talking with Darren the other day and we did go through all the different teams licensing. And that what we could get, and under the equal to Zoom is about the same cost for Teams. But I'm not quite sure if that's the route we're fully ready to go yet.
Wasn't Zoom part of the package, the whole package where we paid for that, for Zoom? I thought that was the case way back when.
I mean, we're paying for 5 Zoom accounts through the county. The other 25 would be through Western Prairie.
Okay.
So.
and Western Prairie doesn't use Zoom anymore, so they handed it all off to the county and we're not having 30. So we got a bill for 30 accounts. We don't need,
We need 5.
right? And that's, do we have to have that upgraded Microsoft package? Can we do those 5 now and not do the Zoom? And I don't know what the costs are, but I don't wanna be stuck with one and then have to upgrade anyway. So that's kind of where I was at.
I think we need to have a bigger conversation with Sean, just figure out how long we continue to use the current server, how, like, what the transition over to Teams would look like.
Okay, pension?
Good morning,
Morning?
Cecilia Amadou, Regional Director, and I have Emily.
I'm Lily Bull, the Grant County Extension Educator.
Thank you for having us on the agenda this morning. We just thought it would be a good idea to share updates about what we've been doing and what our goals are for the remaining of the year. And also give you an opportunity to ask us questions and see what else we could be doing in your community. So I'll let Emily go ahead and share what she's prepared for you this morning.
I'm gonna start with my program goals for this year. So I developed them with our program leader for the Northwest and then our quality program specialist. We do 3 goals every year: a program goal, a retention goal, and a growth goal. My program goal for this year is to strengthen and organize the community club program. Just because when I stepped in, there was not a lot of systems in place within the 4-H world in Grant County, and when it's more organized and there's more systems in place, it's easier to retain kids because they know what to expect, and it doesn't really change. So that's a big part of my goal this year, is to just get systems in place for county fair, state fair, and other events that we have going on, as well as get a lot of things organized, because there was no rhyme or reason in there of where anything was located. So a big thing I've been doing is reorganizing the office and our online system and files. My growth goal for this year is to grow the Cloverbird program. I think right now I have, well, when I checked this morning, I was up to 20 Cloverbuds. Cloverbuds are grades K through 2. So I've been putting together a better Cloverbud experience to draw in more of that age demographic, and And the goal is to increase the Cloverbud enrollment rate by 50%, so up to 30 kids would be the goal by the end of this year. And then my retention is to just increase my first year retention rate. It's actually pretty good and it's on par for the rest of the state in Grant County. Right now it's at 60%, but I would love that to go up to 75% or 100%, but we'll stick with 75. And then just some highlights from this last year, 2024. I had 55 youth who exhibited at the county fair through 531 projects. We had 68 youth enrolled in the program. We retained 85% of eligible youth from the previous year. I had 13 first year members and 6 new youth from 4 families that had never been in or had family in a 4-H program before. That's pretty cool. For this next year, some of my program plans, I've started to reestablish some of the after-school programs that had been in place. The last time that they were happening was 2022, I believe. So I currently have one after-school Cloverbud program at the library that we meet on Tuesdays, but have plans to bring those back in additional communities and a couple of the schools. And then my other big goal for this year, program planning, is continuing to grow our county ambassador program to increase learn and lead opportunities for our older youth. So that's grades 7+ or 7 through 13. This is like one of the first things I took on when I started my role. And it's something that I really like and I'm super passionate about. I was a county ambassador when I was growing up and a 4-H state ambassador. And I really enjoy that. And the kids have all jumped right in and they have lots and lots and lots and lots of ideas. So, and then just about my first year and like everything I did in the last year, I did a lot of getting to know the county. I'm not from around here or this area of the state. I'm from southern Minnesota. So I did a lot of getting to know the county and developing relationships. I have, I think, a pretty good rapport with the youth and the parents and volunteers. One thing that I think is super cool that I hadn't really seen when I was growing up or even in other counties is I have youth that stop in nearly every day. They come to do their homework in my office. They just sit there and work. That's really cool. Engaged in my first county fair showcase, and then I had 18 youth that I supported that went down to the state fair, both general and livestock projects. One thing I got to do is I worked the dorms at the state fair, so I took some of my PTO, but I went down to the state fair, so I got to watch all the kids exhibit. And for a lot of them, it was their first fair, so that was really cool. I went to several club meetings for both of our community clubs and did hands-on learning activities and just like general like administrative support for them and help them get like club rules and things set. And then I reestablished the county ambassador program, which I had mentioned earlier, and started an after-school program with the library. I'll link.
And I just want to take, just highlight, the impact that Emily just shared. That 55 youth showcasing at, the county fair with that 535, what that really means for your community. That means you're getting 55 youth in your community that are gaining life skills that in the future may be sitting in your seat or be serving in the community in a meaningful way. And that 68 youth enrolled in the program, meaning that we're expanding the program and reaching out to people that typically were not involved in 4-H or that first generation members that maybe don't have a livestock, but they're doing different activity and being engaged in that way. All of that will impact youth that maybe are, I don't have the specific numbers, but thinking about out of home placement and how much that costs the county to have a youth engaged in that specific of their life. We're taking youth out of that place and putting them in an environment that is fostering their learning and giving them leadership opportunity. And we just shared the ambassador program that's really fostering youth leadership. They are traveling to Washington, D.C. and getting to see what that work is like or what does it look like to be in that space. So we really encourage you to continue supporting our program because we are saving county a lot of money and we're giving them skills that they need for the future to keep the work that you all are doing going in the future. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight what that means for your community. Any questions for us?
I got a question.
I see we're budgeting $4,000 for rent. Do you feel, and I haven't been there, do you feel our office or where your headquarters is conducive to building the program and a good setting for what our rent is? Is it a good situation?
Well, good question. One that we've actually explored the opportunity. Obviously, there's more traffic in this building and other community facing building. Ideally with our storage and, having office space for like what Emily said, people just coming in and visiting with her. We would like a bigger space, but I mean, we also understand budget constraints. So we're okay with what we have, but we'll be, if the magic one was to pick whatever you want, we'll want a bigger space with more storage for sure. Cause right now Emily is having to share the space with the youth coming in and also the summer intern coming in soon here, so it'll be pretty tight by the time we have all those people in place.
And with Lucy being on the board, you know, that the after-school program that you're starting at the, you know, at the library, you know what I mean? You're right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's handy for both offices, right? Including the library,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So Lucy's an integral part of the board as well,
yeah.
I think.
It's a very nice location for all of my after school stuff at the library. Makes life very easy.
Yes. Convenient.
So I should probably know this, but I gotta ask. So looking at the budget, it looks like, did we share the coordinator? Cause the salary went from 60,000 to 100 in the budget, or what, was there a material change for 25?
Yeah, so there was a new negotiation contract from last year that increased the pricing. And then prior to that, we were sharing county support staff with Travis County, and that relationship also ended. So we actually saved money by ending that contract.
Or not, the difference is the lack of sharing?
The lack of sharing, and then we made it up by last year's new contract negotiation by bringing it from 80,000 to 100,000 for that one FTE.
It's touched a lot of lives, and kids are where it's at. We need to expound on any kind of youth programs that, you know, give kids something to do. And be involved with other kids and the interaction and things like that. I think it's a huge step for them growing up, because they got someplace to go. You know that, and when they're part of something, you know, a group or anything like that, you know, livestock, there ain't much livestock in this county, right? So we're limited on that, right? Otherwise, there would be more. Some of these other different counties that got a lot of, you know, family farms that got goats and sheep and, you know what I mean, and all that stuff, but we're somewhat limited here, so we do what we can, right?
And that's the unique thing about our program is that it's not just farmers, kids can be,
right.
because anybody who's interested in any aspect of their interest or growth can, I mean, from photography all the way to showing
Right.
livestock, and whatever the county needs is what we tailor our program to meet that need. And we work with our CEC to make sure that we're advocating for what the community needs are, and thank you for serving on that committee.
You else got any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Morning, Matt.
Morning.
Need to wait 7 minutes? Go ahead.
Well, good morning, commissioners. I have two items for you today on the agenda, and neither one of them is what I would call new. The first item we have is the contract for County Road 43 project up in Wendell. Last board meeting, we awarded the bids to Joe Riley Construction. This is just a formality of signing the contract and authorizing the chair to enter into the contract with Joe Riley Construction, County Road 43.
So,
Second.
We have a motion and a second to, for the contract with County Route 43, right?
Yep.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, good. The second item I have is from an old project from back in 2021. It would be the CASA 125 and 54 project. It's kind of been languishing out there with some unresolved issues for quite some time, but working with Central Specialties, we pretty much got everything nailed down. And what you have in front of you is the final payment for that project. I think the last final payment on it is down to $50,000 out of, what was it, $4.7 million project. So we got that done. Now in front of you, you have the resolution to resolve that the project is completed and you accept the project. After this resolution, I would probably put it in the bills next week to be paid and be completely done with this project. So, just looking for a resolution to accept the final.
So everything is done as,
Yep.
Punch list is done and this is what, the 1%?
Yep.
So move, Mr. Chair.
we have a motion, we get a second.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That is all I have for you today.
Good question, Bill from Tollmaster, and they were identical, one for 511,000 some. That for fitting truck. It's not a, it's two exactly same amounts.
That would be, it's, if it's two of the exact same thing, I'm assuming it's the Ken Bakers for the asphalt patching. Have conveyors to, because right now we typically have to use 2 skid steers out on the road. This would be a conveyor that hooks onto the back of the box. And asphalt comes out and goes down a conveyor and they can place it that way.
So we fit 2 trucks for that.
Yep.
Might mention, Senator Rasmussen had sent an email to asking what our progress was on County Road 5. Knowing that we had received, help me out,
LRIP grant.
LR, thank you, LRI and Matt, I had sent it to Matt, and he responded, but it was kind of nice to see that our senator was
Yeah.
keeping in tabs with us.
Yep.
And Matt responded appropriately, so.
And one more thing that also came up with that. We're planning on doing the project in 2027 and I got a letter from MnDOT's rail division. And they're planning to replace the exact same intersection in 2027, that railroad crossing in 2027 that we were going to have to replace. So I put a call into them to see if we can work together so the county doesn't have to pick up the cost for that rail crossing. They would be with me. So they haven't responded to me yet, but if they do, that'd be roughly close to probably $500,000 in savings for us. So.
but if you're gonna do it, we just will take it off of our schedule.
Yeah. Not gonna let them get away with that. Needs to get done, just who's gonna pay for it, hopefully not us.
It needs work.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And,
We do the furniture thing.
Yep.
I asked if we could do the furniture, the bids.
Under the coordinator, the furniture bids.
Sure.
I know where I wanna be on that, and the reason why, I would prefer to buy from Western Prairie, it's a little more expensive, but I would rather not accumulate more stuff. So I said where I'm at.
So with Western Prairie's bid, they included the roller chairs like you guys are sitting on. The other cheaper bid is like these chairs here that have just the metal runners. That's kind of different. But essentially the same tables, they're still modular, they fold down, they do the same thing as these. But again, if we have extra chairs and tables here, it might be work through everything. Not problem, does or purchasing.
We'd be buying stuff like it's right there.
We'd be buying this table, well, not this particular, but these table, 6 of these tables?
6 of these tables.
And 12 of these chairs. If we buy from Western Prairie.
They're in this building somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
That are,
But it's more expensive than buying from you.
They're next door,
they're
storage.
currently not being used.
Right, they're just
They're
doors.
stored,
How much more expensive?
but we're still keeping the rollers for us, so.
Yes.
How much, Troy? How much more?
$1,500, something like that.
Yes.
And it would be these type of chairs, so instead of those,
It'd be rollers. It would be these chairs rather. The other option is listed as sliders. It's not those chairs. It's similar to them.
When I priced out the bid with looking at roller chairs like this, the bids for the Western Prairie versus Uline was probably about $200 difference. So this
I'll
was,
make the motion to buy them from Western Prairie.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. And then we'll do the credit card for the coordinator.
Do you need more than $1,000? How much more?
my recommendation was a $5,000 limit.
So,
Maybe 10.
Everyone, give me 2 of that.
Who was the first?
Troy was first, I was second.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ashley? Sure.
Alright, so I don't know if this is just more of a FYI, just so you are aware, or if it needs a motion, but. We work with Integrity Benefits, they do all of our supplemental benefits, so our life, long-term disability, dental and vision. And they have a website that we use, it's called HR Connect, and so employees can go and see and get forms if they want to, they can see what the benefit is. The benefit that they offer that I'd like to try is an online enrollment tool. And so employees for this is just, they will also include the health insurance in their portal. And so the employee can go in to this portal, they can select their health insurance plan they want, they can select their vision, their dental, all of that. And they can see the costs of what it'll be, so they can see the total costs. And then everything is done online, so they don't have to do a paper copy of anything. They have said that enrollment, by doing it this way, there has been an increase of enrollments because they're not using the paper and trying to figure out what the cost will be. It's all gonna be there, so they can see what their monthly totals will be. It doesn't change anything on my end. It's more of a benefit for the employee because I would still get all the enrollment forms at the end of it. I still would input all of the enrollments online or I'd send them to the broker. So this is more of a benefit for the employee to be able to see what their monthly costs are gonna be, or what if I choose this plan, then this will be my monthly cost. And if I add dental, you know, so they can have a better idea of what their costs will be. So it's a tool I'd like to try. I do have funds in my budget to do it. Yearly would be, $1,200 if we were to change Aflac, which I don't believe will probably change. But it'd be 2,000 a year, to have this portal, to be able to utilize this portal. And then this would be information that they can access any time of the year to look at, their benefits.
They can access it, but they can't, you know.
They can't change anything only during open enrollment, but they can look at the benefits, they can look at all that's there.
We already approved this for Western Prairie.
So I don't know if it needs approval because it's in my, I have the funds in my budget, or if, I don't know what you wanna do.
I'd make a motion to approve it then.
But does it need a motion because it's under the 5,000?
It wouldn't necessarily need it. I mean, she could have went ahead and done it. She got the money in her budget but she's.
I just want you to be informed.
Yeah, acknowledging, yeah, I'll second that.
You're here, might as well make it official.
Okay, works for me.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
All our staff have adequate access or time to access computers, or can they do this from home? How does that work if they don't have an office, say?
Sure, yep, so, every out shop has now, computers, they don't have tablets anymore, they actually have computers there, so they can go into, they'll get emails, because they have their email set up. I'll send out email with the link, so they're able to do it. Everybody has access to a computer now at all out shops. I have to find out if there is a sign in during open enrollment, certain times that they can only sign in to look, I have to find that part out, but, if there's a sign in, then they'd be able to access it anywhere. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
I'm just talking about that right away.
Sure.
It was in the packet, and well, Bill wasn't at the meeting on Friday, but you've seen the budget impact from the proposed cost shifts just from human services. I think we need to inform our voters / taxpayers in next week's paper. My opinion is we should have a 1/4-page ad that is showing what each one of those, the House, the Senate, and the governor's budget impacts will do to levies. And have email contact information for all three of those. Our representative, senator, and an email for the governor to let our taxpayers voice their concerns, because I don't think most people know what's coming.
So what would you do something more about?
So in there, it shows you like, so Grant County under the House, Grant County's share and what that means for dollar figures and levy percentage increase. And then under that, we would have our representatives email, then list the Senate's and our senator's email, and then the governor, and I don't know what the email for the governor, I'm assuming there's one we can get to put in there. I would say we need to run an ad in the paper with that, and then we need to run like on social media.
But
Above it, you just have a little thing that says, here are the proposed budget impacts and what they're gonna mean to your property taxes for next year.
the acronyms kind of gotta be spelled out though, you know what I mean? MSOP, they ain't gonna even know what we're talking about there. So I think it's
Yeah,
gotta,
I'm fine with spelling that out. Yep.
yes, they gotta kind of understand it.
Yep.
We're the only ones that look at some of this stuff, and they ain't gonna even understand it. They're gonna ask questions the minute they see it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think they need to know though, because otherwise come budgeting time, there's gonna be some sticker shock. And
Maybe.
So, and I agree with Troy. since this is proposed, has there been, do we know any changes that since we got this information at Western Prairie to sort? Our communication piece is most current. And the other piece is, from what I understand, and help me if I'm wrong, is our representative Backer is the co-chair of the Health and Human Services, and he sponsored some of this legislation that is really not good. And if I'm speaking off incorrectly, someone please correct. And I don't know if that's important to let our people know. But
Well, at this point, I wouldn't go down that road. This is, you need to contact them. We're almost out of time. By the time this gets in the paper, there's only gonna be a week left of this session. I think we need to inform, contact your representative, senator, and no to cost shifts. We can't. And I did email both of our representative and senator on Friday and told them I'd asked this to be on the agenda and that my intent was to run an ad in the paper stating what's going on, and they both replied, so they both acknowledged that they've seen it, so.
Right, they've seen it. So Stacy and through Stacy, I've been reaching out to Backer on certain things that he's co-authored and things like that, he's kind of off track, even with his own people, okay? And House File 2434 shifts 33% of the state's 50% of the waiver rate exceptions to the counties. That costs counties $154.6 million in the upcoming biennium and $279 million in the next. It also imposes a county cost share for the competency restoration that saves the state $16.76 million in the next biennium.
We can't get in that deep though in our message to our
No.
taxpayers. We just need to,
I'm just telling you.
no cost shifts is what
Right.
we need to communicate. Cause that's,
Right, they ain't gonna understand that, yeah.
so, and if we want, I'm assuming if we ask Stacy or Tracy Stacy on like Thursday about the dollar figure, she'll confirm whether those have changed or not.
Well, they're subject to change everything.
Well, right, but we'll provide the most current information we have at the time.
Right, waiver cost shifts of any kind are a non-starter. We need to be firm on that, is what Stacy tells me. And then whether it's a rate exception, which we don't have the control over, they think we do, or shifting the total cost of the placements, the system needs to be reformed, not cost shifts to the county taxpayer. And then that Backer's got all that information.
So
Stacy tells me, I send it to him.
I'm gonna ask Carl, Tina, do you want a motion to get something put in the paper to this? Or is the board consensus enough?
Board consensus is enough on this.
Okay. Cause I want you guys to be comfortable putting something together for that but I didn't know if we wanted a motion or anybody on the board think we need to have a motion to do it?
so are we buying an ad that's got narrative in it? Or bullet points, or how's our?
Well, I would have a narrative that the Grant County is asking you to contact your representatives, senators, and tell them no cost shifts to the county. And then we would list the dollar figures and the levy impacts, and then their emails.
Troy, would you say that it would be the Grant County Board, right?
I'm fine with that. Grant County Board, however, yeah.
I think it should say the board.
Yeah.
And this can cost potentially 6% of our.
Well, right, so
That's a huge amount.
cause each one of them are different. I think the houses is, it's 400 some thousand, 6.6% levy increase. We haven't talked about wages,
No.
insurance. We haven't talked about anything. This is just the program costs
Yeah.
for human services.
Yeah, and usually,
Cost shifts.
usually our levies, the increases are for the wages and stuff, and it's usually 2 or 3%.
Well, and
So you throw that on, then you're
And
10%,
it's a negotiating year, so we have no idea.
right?
So the intent is just to inform.
It's to inform
We want to
the,
ensure that our taxpayers understand what some of this legislation will do to them.
Mhm. I mean, we're looking at 5-6% just in one county department. Cause there's AIS money that's going away. You know, there'll be some score increase, but it's only one time. And this is for the next biennium. It gets worse after that. So if what they're proposing goes through, what we're looking at is for the next biennium. If nothing changes and it goes into the next biennium beyond that, it gets even worse. I mean,
So that it's twofold, it's to inform.
Yep.
Contact.
ask your representatives to not cost shift.
So the state legislator, they gotta make a decision here by the end of May, right? They're gonna be voting.
Constitutionally mandated end of session is 11/59, May 19th. But I believe the fiscal year starts July 1st. So they have until June 30th to actually get a budget. If they don't, then the state shuts down, which means like 4 people don't go to work.
So do we think Backer's gonna change his direction on this?
I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of,
How many people can you get to email?
I don't know, I know I can control one.
And if you have Facebook, I went yesterday, AMC put out a good thing. Go and share that and get as many people as you can to read it, because it goes through the exact same thing, that what the state is doing is cost shifting on the back of the counties. At MRC meeting yesterday, our lobbyist said essentially it's boiling down to the fact that the senators and representatives are looking at, well, counties can afford it. So they're saying the taxpayers can afford to pay twice. Just we're already paying to the state. They're not reducing that, they're just adding.
They're not touching county program aid, but doesn't matter.
Well,
It's still-
but if you're getting 700,000 and you're increasing 450, you could just as well cut the county program aid.
If they wanted to take that away, then the cost shifts don't stay, you know what I mean, would not come full circle then, is that what you're saying? I think
Well,
we
I'm
need-
saying if you get 750,000 in state aid and they say, well, we haven't touched it, but human services, we're adding $450,000 to your bill, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's just a slight hand.
But isn't this the reaction to spending the almost $18 billion surplus and the $6 million of unfunded mandates? Isn't this the reaction to it?
Would agree. They should have put more into reserve. But there was $7.5 billion of federal ARPA funds that they had to exhaust, so they had $10.5 billion to spend.
Well, but ARPA funds are one-time money, if they're budgeting based on that.
That's exactly what they did. They went from $27 billion to $36 billion
But
per year.
where was the budget at 5 years ago compared to today? I bet you they put $30 billion on it.
Well, and I think it's important that we, and I know we understand it, but maybe we talk about that we're not far away from looking at our 2026 budget. And if we don't keep the potential for this kind of situation in our mind, then we haven't done our part either.
What were they talking at Western Prairie, you guys, with some counties, they figure the preliminary has to be 20%, because they.
Well, that's what Larry Linder's saying, is
Yeah.
that he thinks it should be, the preliminary should be 20%, because this is what we know for one county department. So we know there's gonna be a cut in AIS money, we know there's gonna be some other cuts that we don't know exactly yet, but this is the state government. We don't know what's gonna happen in a new budget that's supposed to be done by October 1st at the federal level. This could be peanuts. We don't know. So that is where I think you get some that are very I mean, And honestly, when we look at it, 6-7%, we're pretty lucky. There's counties that are talking, the state cuts are gonna be 12-15%. So. But yes, it's, as Tina expressed, it's an informational, here's what is proposed to happen. And to try to prevent that, we need you to contact your representative, senator, and say no.
On the federal level too, you're talking.
Well, this is the state.
Yeah, but you gotta talk to the feds too, because it's,
Let's worry about the eminent one that is gonna be closing in the next week or so. And then if we wanna do something for the feds, okay, but let's deal with the first one. Do you have any more questions on what we're thinking?
I think I have a good idea where we're gonna go. We'll cross-reference with Stacy on the final numbers.
Yeah.
We'll get the contact information for the legislators, senators, and the governor.
Just do email, don't put anybody's phone number.
No,
Then if you could, just,
yeah.
if you could email it out to the commissioners.
My intention was to send it out to Troy and Bill just kind of before we send this out so that they can read it. And kind of review it. And then we'll send it out to the entire board once we have our final version.
some of this was talked about when Amy Klobuchar was in town, yeah.
And we
So
can,
you were
once
there, you understood it,
once
and
it's
everybody did.
finalized, we can get it on Facebook, right? But then understanding that the paper with their deadlines. will
Yeah.
not just be-
I've been talking like to the senior group. So. They basically, I don't think they comprehend it, but there's concern there when I tell them this is what we're looking at, so.
So when they open their tax statement,
Yeah,
Then you know where they look at. Not the state, I'll tell you that.
The timing is really tight. Is it too tight for us, since it directly or it affects Western Prairie, that we actually are communications should actually be including Polk County and the Western Prairie piece?
Well, that decision would have had to have been made last Friday,
Yeah.
unless we're gonna get everybody back together. Cause we can't do a Western Prairie decision like that without Polk County in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
I realize that, I guess.
We'll focus on the Grant County portion.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're thinking the same way down there.
Well, and at the meeting, I expressed that this was what I intended to bring up today and ask for. But that is I mean, I can email them every day. And it just gets sick of seeing my email. But if we can get 30 people. It doesn't sound like a whole lot of people, but if there's 30 additional emails from Grant County citizens there, that's gonna weigh on their decision.
Or if there's 100 or 150.
Hey, if there's 1,000, that would be better, but even 30 is,
And I think it's important, whatever we put out, that it does give them the information that needs to be, because not a lot of people maybe are as informed as we are, because we're in the room. And so if we can give them the needed information to respond to their respective elected, is helpful.
well, I think the no cost shift to counties. Both of them are gonna know what that means.
so.
Yeah. Is this gonna be a motion or not, or? is it-
Well, the consensus seemed to be good enough, so.
Oh, yeah. Good work, Troy Johnson.
I'm just asking the question.
Thank you for bringing the question.
Yeah.
Well, we know the whole get worse if we aren't.
How are you guys? Good. Good. You? Good.
I don't think you're supposed to fly that.
No fly zone, so what is it?
I'm just gonna turn it on. Unless you guys want me to, we can go over the bargain one. You're not good enough to run it in here or what? Well, I don't wanna crash it. Kind of expensive. I'll just hide. What's that? Land it on the carpet. I could. Okay. So. For the last 3 years, it's been a long time coming, but, I had a lot of conversations with Mark McCabe about drones. And how we would like to do some type of scenario-based training, get a couple the local groups together and fly. And so approximately 3 years ago, we finally made it happen. And our first, we call it a fly-in, was up at the Andy Anderson's farm. Just in the Otter Tail County. And we had about 40 people there or so. So a drone team is the pilot and then also, the visual observer. And, since then, we've expanded dramatically. There was a tremendous amount of interest the first year we did it, and we turned away a lot of people because it was our first year. We didn't know how this was gonna turn out or what was gonna happen next. So last year, I'm part of the planning committee. One of the members on the planning committee is Shane Richards. He's the chief deputy up in Becker. And he had reached out to Sioux Pass Ranch, and Sioux Pass Ranch said, we'd love to host you, and for free. So that gave us about 550 acres to play with, buildings, main stage, all sorts of different stuff. So last year, we made a pretty big expansion to our training, and we ended up having to go to our backup date because of rain. So we ended up with probably around 80 flyers or so, and probably about 20 observers. And this year, we're expecting somewhere between 130 and 150. So we're just constantly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This year, we're expecting 3 legislators to come. I have one judge that said if her calendar clears, she's gonna be there to check everything out. We have people from all over the state coming. We got St. Louis County Rescue is gonna be putting on a talk at the end of the training. Since they're so far away, they're just gonna be doing it virtually. But we have Mr. Harry Davis, he's with the FAA, and he's gonna be giving presentation right away in the morning. So the rest of it's all scenario based. We have hazmat, lost duck hunter, missing person. We're doing a crash recon. State Patrol's putting that on along with BCA is gonna be doing a grid search, pattern search, because you can set these things up to just fly certain grids and take pictures. So a lot of times what State Patrol will do is their unit, they'll put it up and they have it all set up where it just flies autonomously over the top of the accident scene. And they download all those images into the computer, and then they can basically build like almost kind of like a 3D model of what the accident actually looked like. We're also doing an indoor scenario this year. The indoor stuff, like Doyle and I were just kind of discussing a little bit. I could fly this one indoors, but it's not made to fly indoors. So it'll drift. We'll sit and go like this because it can't lock in the GPS very well. The indoor drone, one of the most popular ones, is called Avata, and it's about that big around, and you can crash it in the walls and do all sorts of different stuff, and it's very, very robust. So we're gonna be doing that one as well. We also have an obstacle course set up again this year. Our obstacle course is gonna be right next to the main stage at Sioux Pass Ranch. So there's all sorts of different stuff. There's a little tunnel that they have to fly through. We have these trees, we call them, that have little buckets in them. And we'll have certain items or a number that they have to maneuver their drone just right to see it. So yeah, it's an all-day training. I'm letting you guys know. If you could come up, that would be fantastic, to see what we're doing, up there. So this is our drone. And so, just don't push any button. So that is what I look at, or what I see when I'm flying this thing. I can take pictures, videos. It's amazingly still. This unit also has thermal, so I can toggle through those different screens and get thermal images as well. We fly 2 to 5 times a year, depending on what happened, what's going on. I have used this unit, for people search, search and rescue. Last year, I went up to the Dalton rest area and flew looking for a gentleman that was wanted for murder charges out of Minneapolis, who had ran from the cops up there. I did not locate him with the drone, but, they did find him eventually. And so while I was flying the area looking for him, they found him in this real thicket area. And so I flew my drone over there right away and was able to keep an eye from the sky, if you will, and watch the arrest unfold right on my monitor. The really nice thing about that is if I could see him, or if there was something going goofy, like, you know, maybe he popped out of the thicket and the guys didn't see him, but I could see him. And if he had a gun, I could get on the radio right away and say, hey, he's over here, I see a gun. I just flew this unit a couple of weeks ago over the top of a really bad traffic crash that we had just west of town involving a motorcycle. She had very, very serious brain injuries. She is recovering, expecting to recover. But I was able to pop this baby up, and even if you go up even 40 feet, it changes the whole view of it. You can look right down, you can see all the skid marks, final rest of the motorcycle. And I took a whole bunch of pictures and then lined it up on the roadway, hit record, and just slowly flew right over the top of it, recorded the entire scene right there. So all that data then goes over to State Patrol, who did come down about a week afterwards and did a crash reconstruction on it, and did all the measurements, and they also flew their drone over it and stuff like that. So they're a handy tool. And I hope that you guys can come up. It's, like I said, it's gonna be an all-day event, so. Any questions for me at all?
Yes. I have a question.
Yeah.
When I understand, I don't know a lot about it, but when I understand, agriculture is getting, it is in the drone world and getting more into it. So the training or the linkage between what EMS and what you're doing and what someone up in the sky is doing, talk about that.
So for us, for law enforcement, I'm using this primarily for search and rescue. I've flown it over the top of grass fires before. That was several years ago. The one that I'm thinking of, Dwight, you may have been sheriff yet. I can't recall. It was out by Renstrom's place. It was down in the river bottom there. And the fire was going through between his house and Gibson and Mounds. And I flew our old drone over the top of that one, but I stood right next to the fire chief. And he could look right down on top of it and see where all of his guys were at, where all his assets were at, where the fire was moving and where it was heading to. And it just happened to be heading to a natural choke point that no one else could see. So he's on the radio, guys move up over here by this big tree, et cetera, and we can put the fire line there and boom, knocked it right out. With agriculture, obviously we don't spray crops. The egg sprayers are much larger than this one. Flight times are typically about the same just because they're carrying such a bigger payload. You do have to be licensed. It's called a Part 107 license. So I carry a 107 license, and for business, you'd have to also carry a 107 license. For spraying, you'd probably have to have the applicator license as well. But for recreation, you don't need a 107 license. And that test is no joke. It's hard. But
The reason I ask is if the FAA is involved, are we missing the training opportunity to very egg based on something that's
For the agricultural community or for us?
So for the ag community, if we got the training module and we got, it feels like we're going down the path and we might be leaving the park now. IEA.
Yep.
I don't know, but
Well, I have contact with the FAA, we'd be more than happy, I'm sure, to come down and talk, and, you know, if there's guys that wanna learn more about it. I know Frickmans are going into it right now, my neighbors. And I don't know exactly where they're at with the process, with licensing and all that type of stuff, but if anyone has any questions, I don't know the answer, I'll find
I know
out.
someone that bought one for ag purposes and they have to go to the cities.
Okay. Yeah, when I did my part 107 test, I went up to Fargo to the Jet Center and took it there. But my recurrent test is every 2 years and I can do that online. If your first one, you have to go to an actual testing site.
Then you gotta do continuing education, much like this. Keep
Uh,
that.
similar, so it's through the FAA, it's called their drone zone, so you go there and read and study up to the test and then take the test. Well, it's not like, post credits for law enforcement.
Right, that's what I was referring to. So you stay 500 feet, you don't have to fly out, some kind of a flight plan, you don't have to register every time you
No.
take it out.
Nope, I don't have to register.
Whatever you want.
No, so my ceiling is 400 AGL, I can't go above 400.
Right,
There's certain circumstances that I could if I had to fly over the top of, say, a really tall tower or something like that. But basically you can go above 400 AGL and then you have to drop back down again. And from what I've found, I took it to ceiling, I went to 400 and it's kind of worthless. My sweet spots have been 50 to 150 feet up in the air. You know, and
clarity is there.
that's where I get the best images. The thing has fantastic zoom, it's like 32 times zoom, but my sweet spot has been that 50 to 150. You don't need to go way up in the air, is what I've been doing.
And I think too, another important part is it's an asset outside of just your funds, because in independent recovery, I know you took pictures for disaster
Yeah.
declaration. So it's a resource for other departments too, that can help the county with, funding reimbursements after things happen in natural disaster, like a tornado or a flood.
Yep.
So it's been used that way too.
Yeah,
which is
I
super
forgot
helpful.
all about that. We went for a drive one day several years ago. We had a bunch of flooding in the county in the spring. And there was a bunch of FEMA money that was available. And Dina and I were talking like, hey, man, I got a phone. We can take awesome pictures of everything. So we were bouncing from spot to spot to spot, pop up the drone, take a bunch of pictures, take some videos. And all that data went to her and the FEMA. So better documentation we can have, the more money we can get. Yep,
And can
let's
you
do it.
Office have one that can go indoors, or do you just have exterior ones?
We just have this one.
Okay, I'm assuming there's mutually for other agencies.
Yep.
The non-responder safety is huge, it's used a lot to go into a building or structure before somebody else does to know it's safe.
Yep, so Otter Tail has 2 Avadas. McCabe has one for sure. So they'll use the Avadas a lot in like search warrants, like a SWAT warrant, maybe barricaded suspect, send the drone in there, he beats up the drone, big deal. And it's a lot better than a person.
But Ken, do we have a backup for you or a mutual aid agreement to get on the air?
Yeah, so I'm a pilot along with Andy Rude, so we can both fly it, but we could have pilots here easily. Douglas County has pilots, Otter Tail has pilots. Hope County has pilots. Stevens maybe in the works for it, Traverse doesn't, and Wilton does not. But, and there's also other drones we have access through McCabe, through the Central EMS, so. We could have all sorts of drones real quickly. And the neat thing about this training is there's 2 big vendors that are coming this year, Veritech and Skydio. And they bring all the latest and the greatest toys. Last year, they brought one in, that was $60,000 drone. Are you sure you guys want me to fly this thing? Yeah, we got insurance, it'll have it. Great.
What's that one cost, Ken?
This one was $7,000. So, like I said, this one has just your regular optics camera along with thermal, and then I've got 4 different batteries for it. Depending on the environment, 20 minutes, half hour, depending on the wind. The wind is the big one. I have a couple of different accessories for it, so this is a little speaker. And it just mounts right here. And it actually works decent, I mean, it's loud enough.
So it's a speaker where you can
Yep,
give orders through?
yep, I can talk into this thing and it'll send the signal to that and then send the recording on.
Swift Army just did that with their last duck or bird hunter and they flew. They called them all through the drone.
They show them the way. That was in both, right?
That's it.
With, yeah, that's right. That was last year. maybe.
Well, it was just about 3 months ago.
Is that the read sensing?
Yep. It has thermal, in it, yep. So anytime that I take a photograph or a video, it'll take it both regular optic and thermal. I will both at the same time.
And the thermal's red or green.
You can change all sorts of different color palettes. Right now I have it set for just gray and black. For me, that works better, but Andy might prefer something different. You can just make that change on the controller and you do it. So it also has a little spotlight, which is actually pretty darn bright. And then, so at night, this is just another strobe. And this goes on the top. So at night, it has to have 3 nautical miles of visibility. So this thing will be blinking, and then there's also another one on the bottom that'll be blinking. So you can see the reds here and the greens here. All that is, well, right now it's telling me it doesn't like me right now because it's not talking to GPS correctly. But when it's operational, I'll have red here, green here. So at night, I can say, oh, well, if red's pointing at me, I know it's pointing directly at me. Green, I know it's pointing directly behind me. And then at night, there is a light on the bottom of it. So you can turn that on when you're flying around if you'd like. Otherwise, when you're landing, you just top it on and it's actually very, very bright. Night is something different or new. At first, when I first got into drone stuff, you couldn't fly at night, but laws have changed now that allow us to fly at night. This particular drone, I'd have to have a certificate of waiver to fly it over the top of people, directly over the top of people. And that comes through the FAA. What I have found, especially in our area, really don't need to fly directly over a group of people. I can fly quite a ways off to the side if I need to and see in. So, you know, maybe bigger agencies like Minneapolis, Fargo, they may have that waiver for crowd control and stuff like that, or riots, etc. But luckily, no riots here in Elder Lake yet. So I don't have that waiver.
You don't have a little canister that you can put in there, it's got air spray.
Yeah, right. Right.
That would be beneficial.
Right. So, and then, this unit I can also charge right from my squad car, a little cigarette plug-in, a little bank charger, and I can charge right there in my car. Downloading images and stuff like that, I just hook it up to my computer, dump all the images onto my computer, and then I can put them on a USB drive. I can upload them to the case file. The Hoffman grain elevator explosion. I flew that scene before the fire marshal got there. And then right on scene, I dumped everything onto my hard drive, popped that onto a USB. In fact, I keep extra USBs in my kit and gave them all that data right there.
Now, they'll like that on arson fires and stuff.
Yeah.
The deputy get there first, you can document over the top what that looks like down there. You can figure out.
It's a game changer.
How about like wintertime? Do the optics still stay fairly clear? Doesn't?
Yeah, it'll still stay fairly clear, but my flight time will drop dramatically just because it's so darn cold. Okay. You know, it will warm the batteries, which of course takes more electricity. All right.
I'm getting the deal. I didn't see a targeting right for a while, so I don't think I think so. He didn't bring that one in. That's a different one.
Facilities bid, who's
gonna take care of that? Well, it's a strategic planning map. And some of the things we've come up with is, we have, well, number one, can cleaning be done during the day?
You'd say can't, that,
Can, I'm asking the question.
Okay, what was your, right?
So like cleaning in the courthouse, can that be done during the day? That doesn't, my opinion is it doesn't have to be done before or after business hours. It can be done during the day. That's a question for this board.
I don't see why it can't.
so maybe. Is it not being done during the day now? Is that why we're addressing the question?
Well, when we met, you said you were doing your cleaning before and after the day. It can be done during the day is my opinion. But I'm one of five. I mean, I don't know why it can't be done during the day.
I agree with that. I don't see why not. I've seen it done during the day.
Okay.
So you got thoughts on that? You wanna weigh in on that, Jeff, or where you
When
at?
I first started here, Lonnie did cleaning during the day. And I heard complaints. And when he retired and PK was working, he cleaned during the day too, and I heard complaints. It's a lot easier for the cleaner to clean when nobody's in the office, instead of trying to slalom through and not be a nuisance. In my opinion. If everyone's cool with having somebody come in their office and clean during business hours, fine. Then we can do it. But then everyone's gotta understand that's gonna happen, so don't complain about somebody being in your office in your way.
So maybe, I hear that, so. If we focus the discussion on a desired outcome. And probably our desired outcome would be that we want the courthouse clean. Would that be fair, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Then if we back up and talk about the process that we would do to reach our outcome, the question part of it then during the day, but I guess the question is, there's a lot of some of that process that isn't even in an office. So, and I don't know what the percent is, I haven't analyzed this at all, I'm just kind of rambling here and asking you a question, and then if you address the process to reach the outcome, could you do it without huge interruption to Carl while he's on his computer?
Ask that question again?
Well, I mean, are you running a vacuum so you couldn't be on the phone? Are you grabbing the wastebasket and going in and what? Kind of explain your interruption process.
Well, if someone was to clean an office, if it's a hard surface office, you just sweep or do you sweep and mop? If you mop, the floor is wet, right? If you vacuum, it's loud in a carpeted office. So then you're sort of relegated to what can I get done without the biggest interruption? If they want their counters wiped and cleaned and disinfected, that takes time and you're in the way.
And then we got 6 months of winter, so then you're out moving snow, right?
Okay, I think let's just stay on cleaning and not go to outside.
No, but I'm just, yeah.
But just for, just to kind of help bring this full circle. So is there a list of things that you do in every office every day? Like for every office, is it garbages, wipe counters, sweep floors, or is it do you have
What I'm doing right now,
Yeah.
or what a cleaner would need to do, is two different things.
Okay.
So,
And that's what I was referring to, because you're probably moving snow and blowing snow and things like that, and then you clean at the end of the day, when everybody's gone, right?
right,
and you only do it once, right?
Right,
Instead of all day long,
right,
right?
but I'm not cleaning every,
But could I stop you right there to make sure
at the end of the day.
if, let's not list the outcome. Because when you said what I'm doing and what a cleaner would doing is not the same, and I don't know how that fits into a desired outcome. Help me with that. So we're not,
I just think there's three things, right? There's outdoor work, and then there's the inside the facility cleaning. And what is happening inside the facility cleaning, you know, what does that look like? I think we need like a hard line list. This is what happens in the public areas and the frequency. This is what happens in offices, private offices and the frequency. So there's something to look at and measure if outcome is happening. And so I guess that would be a question, right? Instead of trying to hammer this out here, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do, but in order to have an outcome, we have to have a task list, right? What's happening, how often, where it's happening. Then you add in outside work to that, you know, to try to see where things are getting done or aren't getting done or however that works. It'd be easier to see that on a
Well,
list.
right, so that was one of the things that came out of strategic planning is a job duty list, not a job description. A duty list, all the things that are being done, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever that is. All of those things listed out that need to be done. That's one of the things that strategic planning thought should be worked with building personnel committee, both of them would be my opinion. So that we have that list of things that need to be done, because we've changed a lot since I got here. We no longer have the public health building. Older building needed a lot of attention. The social services building, older building needed a lot of attention. We had the old hospital, that storage shed behind there. That's enough on that building. We had outbuildings in Norcross and Barrett. I mean, we've gotten rid of a lot of older buildings that needed a lot of attention. So what are those job duty lists? And reevaluate things. That's because we moved that, we asked strategic planning to take a look at it, and is that a fair statement of what came out of there?
but I kind of interrupted Jeff, I apologize, but I just had to make sure I was clear, so maybe I should let you finish on your thoughts when you were going down that narrative.
I completely forgot what we were.
But you were saying what I'm doing and what a contract sewer cleaner would do is different. I went back to outcome-based thinking, but go ahead. What you planned on telling us there with that.
Well, right now I'm doing bare necessity. The public restrooms gotta get done daily. And then the garbages gotta get done daily. Right? Then with what's left over, I can either do a hard surface office or a carpeted office. For their floors.
So that's 8, that was singular. Are you talking one office?
Yeah. And then if one of the hallways, one of the hallway levels is bad, and generally that's always gonna be the ground floor because of, license bureau and people tracking on the ground floor. You give up an office to do the hallway.
Go right back to this list you talked about, how do we proceed?
Well, we gotta have a list of, you know, what is done on a daily basis, let's say in the courthouse, weekly, quarterly. you know, what is going on in this building? I mean, what are the duties that need to be done? Cause I can't sit here today and tell you, okay, we gotta do X, Y, and Z. Well, how do you prioritize? We need that list, so then you can go and work with the personnel building committee, help establish that list, and then go through personnel of, here's the list of things that need to be done, because we don't know, do we need cleaning, do we need a second person, we don't, what is this list? A job description is like a brief overview of all the tasks that compile, right? We need that list of those tasks. And this is not, my opinion is this is not just a facility, we're starting with facility maintenance, but we need that task list for all positions in the county.
So Heather presented a scope of service from,
I do have one for everybody, if you guys would like them now. I didn't wanna jump in and get the line. Yeah. It's for. The service that was on your,
What was called for an RFP.
yeah. That, I think that there needs to be some adjustments made to that. Just as far as frequency of the vacuuming and the dusting and things like that, that definitely needs to be done more than a quarterly basis. But I just wanted to put that in there for you guys, that's what was requested for the bid.
One other thing that the strategic planning did, I don't know if we touched on that, was having a list of all the vendors and any backups of that we utilize. So, like last week, I know we had a lock being changed, and do we have that formulated in a list of, for this service, we would call these, you know, that vendor list. So that was my understanding from the strategic planning, that was that this would go to the personnel building, and we would comprise that list and ask for the next step from there.
So would it be fair then to say that, you know, our coordinator then should lead this through the various department committee or the committee structure and bring this thing to some recommendation, whether it goes to strategic planning or building or this board? And in the interim that we have these desired outcomes, so we just can't lay over and not do something.
Right.
I mean, we gotta operate.
so the building committee has asked for a list of basically items that need to be completed within the courthouse and kind of like a schedule. So that's been requested through several of the committees. And that's currently being worked through right now. I think once we get the list, that's when he's come back to the committees. To identify if there's other things that may have been missed, then that way there's some more consensus on what needs to occur. And when and where. And how.
So Heather, would it be fair to say your handout here has pictures of things that maybe have taken place over a period of time that haven't been addressed?
Correct.
So one could possibly say in your handout that once they were addressed, that the scope would change significantly or not?
No, I think it's something, because it's a historic building, it needs to be maintained at that level. Or you're just gonna accrue costs down the road, like taking care of the wrought iron and those sort of things, the marble, you're saving money by keeping it, clean.
I think between the strategic for building and coordinator. So what you were saying there, Carl, that this process is kind of started, and do we then let the process and, work their magic?
Yes, I would say that. We're attempting to get that list. Yeah.
Since could one assume, because we haven't accepted, we had the RFP and we haven't accepted any of the bids, that we can assume that the work that potentially was out on bids is gonna get done? Or does that need to be addressed?
What's in the bid items are currently in the current job description.
So we can assume Jeff is gonna mow the yard or do whatever is in his job description.
Right.
And you would agree there's no question to that?
No,
No, you wouldn't agree, or
no, I would agree.
you would, okay. Wait till, Mr. Chair, till a meeting that we hear from our coordinator or effectively whatever out.
Yeah, I would say.
You okay with that, Tina?
Yeah, I mean, this is my seventh day here, so I'm just kind of, but yeah, obviously, we don't want to kick the can down the road any longer than we have to, because we need to get things done and everybody needs to be informed of the direction the board wants to go. So yeah, I'll have to connect with the personnel committee, facility, or building committee, and kind of see where we're at in the process. And go through some of this stuff so we can get to a resolution for sure. Now I know, Heather, did you have questions of the board, or as long as
Yes.
everybody's in the room, let's.
So the reason that I came today was that, I had watched the previous meetings, the last two, and Jeff had said that it takes 3 hours or 4 hours to do the clean, but he has a lot on his plate. He's managing 100 different things. The cleaning was part of somebody else's job, is what I'm on, as I understand it, that he's retired now. Basically, Jeff needs help, he's one person, he can't mow the lawn, clean the building, do all of that, you know what I'm saying? And in that 4-hour allotment, he's doing the basic, take out the trash, those sort of things. Then you had broken it down into saying that would be a $77 an hour pay for that job. Well, that's really not even cleaning the courthouse. I filled in for Jeff when he was on vacation, and it took me and my husband, or me and my daughter, two of us cleaning 4, sometimes 5 hours. Just to get the bathrooms scrubbed down. And we didn't even go into any offices. I came on a Wednesday to take out the trash for the offices. So to get it back to a higher level of clean, I mean, I don't know when the last time the grass was cleaned or polished. That stuff just gets kind of pushed aside when you have to cut the grass and move the snow and, you know, that sort of thing. But the courthouse is the icon of your whole city and, or county, excuse me, your whole county, and she needs some love. She needs some love. So I just wanted to say that it would probably take me 2 months to get it back to, you know, the walls are cleaned and everything is back to a good baseline. There's things that I don't feel comfortable doing as far as like the stripping of the floors. I don't know how to do that. But I'm definitely willing to learn and work with you to learn that skill. The bathroom grout, it's not good. I mean, it's hard you guys go into the courthouse and you just walk through and you go to the office but when you're actually in there, like looking for those specific items and putting your hands on surfaces, I mean, there's coffee spilled on that pink Tennessee marble wainscoting in the lobby that you can't see unless you're up on it, you know what I mean? And that's gonna stain, and that's needs to be taken care of. So my bid for the courthouse at the 1,500 is actually way below industry standard. It's about 17 cents per square foot. And for a historic building, it's usually about 30 to 40 cents per square foot. So with a contract, you're not having to pay for my benefits, my insurance, that sort of thing. And it's not just my hourly, it's my name and whoever is there to help me as well under my company. It's a service fee, not an hourly.
I got a question on your scope of service. You address the daily, weekly, twice weekly and quarterly. You don't really address probably what your pictures depict and what you just said. So would that be in addition to?
In addition to
what this really doesn't address bringing this thing up to what I'm hearing.
right,
So would there be an extra charge to bring the historic building to a level that what I'm hearing?
the scope that's in there is the one that is right off of your request. The only thing that I would feel comfortable charging the extra, like the $40 an hour, is for the stripping of the floor and the grout and the tile. The rest of it is in that bid amount. Just because the tile, they're penny tiles, and that is a significant amount of grout cleaning. Because they're only 1-inch tiles, you know. And I don't know if you guys have records of when those things were done last. I don't know how that works. But I would like to start basically a spreadsheet of when those things get done, so that if I don't continue doing it, the next person has a list of, okay, the tile was stripped this month of this year and that sort of thing. Just keep it a little more organized.
Heather, when you're talking about the grout and cleaning it, is the color that the grout is now, is that the original color or what's the?
Absolutely not. It's black right now. The color of the grout is tan. There is a picture in there that you can see. The picture's printed out darker. If you look on the right-hand picture at the top of the tile, you can kind of see a better coloration of the original. The grout is very similar to the color of the tile.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think we should thank Heather for her information and what we've heard and then let Tina and the committees go to work.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do for now.
Any other? Anything?
Yeah,
Okay, the only other, thing that we were gonna inform the board was, Chad Van Satten removed his bid for lawn care. He withdrew that. So, along the same lines of lawn care and snow removal, just so you're aware that that bid has been withdrawn, so it's the two that are here, like Grow Green and John's Lawn Care that you've already seen. Correct? We've already seen.
Yes.
But what you just going back to what we talked earlier, right? And you kind of agreed that our level of expectation and outcome would be no different with Jeff and our lawnmower that it would be for a contract. Do we agree on that?
Would the desired outcome goal shouldn't be changed depending on, I mean, that. It'd be the same no matter what.
And you agree to that?
to mowing, that's gotta get done.
Yeah, the desired outcome is no different, whether we have contracted it out or whether it's in your job description. Do we agree on that?
So that the fertilizing would need to get done, the spraying would need to get done, the trimming would need to get done, the mowing would need to get done, the irrigation would need to be brought into at the correct season.
Because until if some of this process, Tina does her work, we haven't accepted it, but we have someone with it in their job description. What I'm saying is there's no difference in expectation or desired outcome. Yes or no? And you said there's no different. We should be good there too, Mr. Chair. And if it snows, we're in trouble.
I just think it's three different things, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at. There's the cleaning, and then there's the grass mowing, and there's the snow removal. And so I think we just gotta kind of break it down and come up with a plan for each one and see how it all comes together.
Yep.
Anything else, any more on any of that?
As long-term planning here, in the event that, you know, Jeff will take a vacation again at some point. I think long-term, he also needs to look at, do we have a backup for lawn care? Do we have a backup for, cleaning of the courthouse? Do we have a backup for snow removal? Because as right now, he's in Department one. So I think that's the other piece that needs to be reflected in the committees to figure these things out.
And it sounds as if there's a list being worked on of vendors that are used already. We could just be added to that, correct? Backup vendors and stuff with contact information. Kind of build that list with the schedule, you know, so like, you know, this is who you call for this first. If they're not available, they're backup. This is who you call for this. They're not available, they're backup.
Well, I think building committee there wasn't some discussion that the highway had a couple of summer intern or whatever they call them. That does some of that down there that they could covered the Lamoille in his absence.
That, we haven't vetted that through with the highway.
I would say that's not a building, that's a highway.
With the what?
That's a highway, that's not a building. They're down. We said highway, our building committee, that's not a building.
No, I meant highway committee, excuse me, thank you, but there's county staff. And if they're more than capable, I would guess, to cover if he is gone.
So did the question come up about us, do you have to retain a boiler's license to operate the county?
Yeah.
Buildings there, HVAC and, you know, and the boiler's license? No, you don't need one of them? So what licenses do you need? You know,
Boilers.
two, okay. And that's what, every 2-3 years? You gotta renew that?
You renew it every year.
Okay. Did that get talked about it? Did
Well,
you-
for our geothermal system,
There's still boilers there that are backup boilers in case the geothermal goes down.
in the courthouse.
Yep.
And are you?
His building.
Are you subbing a little bit? I know in the beginning you subbed and helped the school out a little bit till they got something
Back in the
there.
day, yeah.
They've taken care of that. You
Yep.
don't do any of that, correct? Okay. Carl, do you get AMC updates?
I still do, yes.
Okay.
And I forward those on to Tina right now.
Anything else with the lawn care then?
I just got one thing, Mr. Chair. Are we still exploring the option of hiring a second man in that department? Or is that out the window? I
I
just
don't know
think,
that anybody's closed any doors.
I was just thinking that we need to, you know, take a good look at all of this, but.
That's supposed to be on all the cleaning and however that goes. Be my guess. Okay, then I'll move on to the coordinator,
They made a recommendation to bring these back to the committees to continue.
I was just asking Carl what happened at the last meeting. I wasn't there. It was tabled. And do we need to have any kind of motion to table at this meeting, or is it just good?
So there's
Because,
two types of table. So if we tabled it till a specific date, it automatically shows up on that agenda. If it's just tabled indefinitely,
okay,
essentially it's gonna just die, cause you have to have a date tied to it. It's just going to the committees when they're ready, they'll come.
okay. Just wanna make sure, because obviously we don't wanna kick this can any longer down than we need to. We need to come up with some solutions, so.
okay, the Morse Electronics contract.
It was noted that Morris hadn't updated their contract yet, and so what they were doing is renewing our contract information. They've also included the invoice, and there is, it's the same rate as last year. So they did not do a rate increase for 2025.
But we still have to approve it.
Yes, we're still bringing it to the board. It's over the $5,000. This is. It's an annual contract, but it should still be approved.
What is that, like 104,000?
104,342.
That's same as last year.
It's the same as last year.
So I will make a motion to approve it, and then afterward they have something on that, but.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
So on that, I think we should look at a policy that, like the contract, even though it's over the $5,000. We budgeted for it and none of the key terms of it have changed. I think we should have a policy that the coordinator can just approve that. As long as, long as the hours didn't change, the hourly rate, all those things didn't change from one year to the next. My opinion, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I mean, we budgeted it, so we know that it's there, it's gonna happen, and nothing in it changed. To me, that's just a coordinator approving it. Now, if something would have changed, the hours of service changed, the rate changed, anything like that, then it would come back here, but.
I'm not sure I agree with Troy Johnson. Cause I think circumstances change. And I agree wholeheartedly if the contract and the hours change, that things change. And so having them come back. If it takes us 2 minutes to approve it. I think it's part of our due diligence to at least, if we just say that you can approve $104,000. It should be on the agenda. But we've disagreed before.
Oh, yeah, and we will again. Yeah. My thinking on it is, if we're concerned about that, the coordinator should already be aware and would say, there's been concern about this contract. I need to go to the board before, that's my opinion.
You referenced the budget, and my concern is that when all that's coming together, all those line items, and then to be forecasting what may happen 210 days later, I just feel they need to come before us. Like I say.
So is there a consensus with the remainder of the board?
It should come in front of us, in my opinion. Anytime we're spending money and moving forward, then you're right, there's contracts do change, hours of operation and maybe amendments or addendums or something like that could add it into it. That it should come in front of the board.
Well, that would
When
change,
you're talking that kind of a thing.
that would change the terms.
Yeah, right, I get that, but it should be, anytime we're spending money, it should come in front of us.
The other thing along that, my thought is that maybe our needs change. Maybe we want the contract to change.
Right.
And so by bringing it back up, it permits us to say, well, we've done something different. Maybe we need to check with this vendor about this. We gotta have something on our agenda, right?
This isn't even a hill, so I'm not dying.
I know you aren't.
I think we should see it from.
We'll bring the contracts, or Tina will bring the contracts to the board here.
You could come with if you want.
Okay, enough of that. Civic Plus.
So Civic Plus, this is the contract, again, renewal for Civic Plus, this is our website. And this is just another bid or another contract.
Would you recommending this?
We would recommend that should be,
Well, without it, our website's gonna go down, I think.
yeah, this is everything we have.
So I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I have a motion, we get a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Cannabis ordinance.
So as Carl's been training me in on everything, the cannabis ordinance has kind of floated to the top as something that we're really working towards finalizing. And so in an effort to get there, we feel like we should have a temporary committee that involves everybody that has an appropriate place as a part of in the ordinance, come to the table to come to that the final draft. our list came up with environmental services, Horizon Public Health, Grant County Sheriff's Office, County Coordinator, and by Carl's suggestion, Ken Johnson and Dwight Walbotney, because he said historically you guys have had a lot of feedback towards the ordinance. But really try to work hard to try to push to the end line to finish up that ordinance. And as I'm getting emails, I notice that the state's frequently reaching out to see, you know, people are starting to submit them and stuff. So just forming this temporary committee.
Did you ask the state if they have their plans done yet?
I wasn't gonna bring that up, but
And my suggestion for commissioners was just kind of, Dwight, you worked on the enforcement side, you've had some interaction with it, and Ken, you've been very vocal about like your feelings with cannabis and working with it. If that's not the board's choice, I would be on board with that as well.
Oh, I think it's a great idea.
They're both kind of old weed smokers anyway, but.
I've been around.
This would be kind of like a working group in a sense.
yeah.
So,
'Cause
Tina, so other counties around us now they've kind of adopted ordinances, right? So that'll be something that, you know, we could look at too.
I think the city of Fergus just approved to.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I haven't read through it yet. It's on my to-do list, and so I need to do that, but I think if we could. If we have to meet, it shouldn't be expensive, you know, a handful of times. To
Yeah.
kind of get a document, an ordinance that we feel good about that we can bring to the board, so
Mhm.
they can get.
Well, you give us a date and we'll.
And the past board recommendations are already included in the updated version with routine.
Yeah. No, that'd be good. We need to get that done.
If it's the board wishes, I don't have a problem serving on it.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And do we need a motion for a temporary committee like that, or is that something that the board can just say is
I
gonna
don't think we
happen?
need a motion.
I think the chair can appoint that committee.
Yeah, that sounds good. Anybody got anything else?
I was just, I wanna go back to the bids just for 1 second.
We already covered that.
Yeah, I know, but what I meant to say was. If we look at the option for the second man, those 3 bids go away, in my mind. That's what I wanted to say.
I just want to interrupt you there. You said man, or meant person.
Spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever, if we did go that route, in my mind, those 3 bids would go out the door. That would be the only cost, you know, savings there. If that person and Jeff did all of those things. So. Right, I don't know if you heard that, but I just wanted to bring up the bid stuff again. In my mind, if we did hire a second person, then these bids would go away. Otherwise, it would get awful expensive. So that's just my thought, but I'm open-minded and we'll see how it goes. Okay.
And just to be clear, and I'm not sure where this is at, but I have to believe that I've heard it before and I'm sure it's out there. That you gotta work underneath a man with a boiler's license for a couple of years before you can even take the test. So. Unless they have one when they come. And I think that process should be vetted out. Through the personnel committee.
The other thing, and I have not a clue on that, Bill, is that if this is for backup, it is possible that we could contract that service also. And so we shouldn't just lock in that we absolutely need a staff member that's licensed at that level to be okay. I think we'd be remiss to. Would you agree, Carl?
I would agree.
But I don't know, you do that, don't you, Bill? Nights and weekends?
No.
Oh,
The question would be whether or not, when those boilers are up there, If you gotta have somebody with knowledge of, on Pronto, you know, I don't know.
Lot of unanswered questions.
But everything.
Anything else?
Time to quit playing corn.
Few hours ago. I'll adjourn at 10:58.
There you go. Thank you, Doyle.
I seen a kid corn planter go by the house this morning at like 7.
Yeah. I said a few,
Dude, it's 11.
I said a few hours ago.
Really late.
I know I am.